What's up, everybody? So, Talons of the Emperor is coming to 40k, and it's nowhere near like it is in the Forge World rules from Book 7. But um, I want to do a ramble now, giving my early thoughts before it's even out for sale proper. It's stuff for pre order as of this ramble of the Talons of the Emperor box set, and how it appears to show us everything that you basically have access to in those booklets of a codex. And then once it's out, and should I get my hands on the box set, because I'm really leaning towards purchasing it. But anyways, whether I do or not is a different story. But I really, so far, I'm leaning towards making the purchase because it's a good deal for me. Uh, After that, giving my thoughts on how they're represented in their booklets proper and all that. But my initial impressions of the box set is favorable. Share yours in the comments section below. Um, I like what I'm seeing in the box set. It's basically showing you, hey, these are small booklets, two small army booklets of a codex for each. They're separate, meaning you don't need to field them together, but you could. Um, just like you could field it alongside any other Imperial force, basically. So that's cool too. And really, what I like about it is GW, putting a little bit more into it to try and garner more attention to these forces, but really just giving us a long-winded uh, excuse for them to sell the kits from Burning a Prospero on their own. When we look at Burning a Prospero, it's a little bit different from Betrayal at Calth. In Betrayal at Calth, everything was generic, everything could be sold piecemeal very easily for Space Marine forces. In Betrayal at Calth. In Burning a Prospero, the Sisters of Silence and the Custodian Guard have no relation to any other force in 40k for the purposes of buying it as just a 40k player. The Mark III Power Armor, cool. Tartaros Terminator Armor, not my personal favorite, but still cool. And they have Giger and Araman, which are very much themed towards particular forces, but still very cool models nonetheless. The Space Wolf model being a bit more usable because you could do it as a pre-heresy or a post-heresy Space Wolf, but both looking very cool. My favorite being Araman. And whether or not they get sold piecemeal, only time will tell. It makes sense to go either way with that. But anyways, my point is, you have these two full-on kits for the Sisters of Silence and the Custodian Guard that make all sorts of sense to sell piecemeal, especially when you look at Forge Rules side of things. Um, in their Talons of the Emperor um, army list, but for GW, selling them piecemeal, it has to also make sense for their 40k line. The Horus Heresy marks of armor for Space Marine makes sense. Sisters of Silence and Custodian Guard wouldn't make sense. There's no real relation. So what they did is more than I thought to make that relation. I thought we were just going to get a PDF data slate that has, unit formation for each, and that's about it. Instead, what we got is probably that and then some in their little booklet style codex stuff for each force. Um, Basically, the Custodian Guard can make 2 units, so they're probably going to have 2 units, their Contemptor Dread and um, their Land Raider as options. And the Sisters of Silence, I believe, can make 3 units with that one kit, depending upon how you build it. And they have the Null Maiden Rhino on top of that. So, add a little something to what they already can do, and package it nicely in that big box set for us with their little booklet codices, and they call it a box set, and it works, and I'm okay with that. I would have liked an extra little upgrade sprue to make the Rhino and the Land Raider feel more important, as being part of such specialized and sacred forces, you could say. They really they are the basic Land Raider and the basic Rhino, just painted up in appropriate color schemes. With that said, little tangent here. Most of the artwork, not all of it, but most of the artwork is from the Horus Heresy card game art. The Custodian Guard on the box cover is from that card game, and then inside their codex stuff, most of the art in there, at least I'm guessing, the art they show, with the exception of the cover art, um, the art they show is from the Horus Heresy card game art. Fantastic art, and that whole Horus Heresy card game set, you could say, served as basically the blueprints for how the Horus Heresy models are taking shape and have been taking shape. And this is no different for the Custodian Guard and Sisters of Silence. My reason for saying this is there is a card for a Custodian Guard Land Raider, and that Land Raider is predominantly red with golden accenting, which is what I personally would do over painting it mostly gold like they show in the example. I think having a red Land Raider just looks a bit better amongst your golden warriors. It'll stand out, be a nice focal point amongst all these ornate warriors, and just look better. And I find it kind of funny that they're using the Horus Heresy card game art and then they show us a golden Land Raider. Nothing wrong with that at all. It looks fine. I just, me being weird, I find that funny. So, anyways, just wanted to point that out. Now, all in all, it's a good haul. It really is. I do wish, though, that the booklets were in one bound book. Much like the Angels of Death Codex of old, which had the Blood Angels as one half and the Dark Angels as another half of the book, I wish there was a bound book that was called Talons of the Emperor Codex, and in there the first half was one faction, the second half was the other. I just think it would feel more official that way than being two mini booklets like they are. Although it does work out if you want to go halfsies with somebody, because then you can get your respective booklet, your respective models, and call it a day. But I would have liked it to be bound in one book called Towns of the Emperor. Then you could sell that book by itself, because currently there's no physical copy of the rules for them being sold by GW by itself. It's only the ebooks, and the ebooks are separate too. Now I get it. You can play Sisters by itself, connected to a force, or just by itself if you're crazy, I guess. Same thing with the Custodian Guard. I get it. They can be independent of each other, but you might as well just the big selling point. I mean, the big box set is called Towns of the Emperor. The idea is that they're showing us both. Might as well just give us both as the codex. One half of it is one, the other half is the other. That's my personal belief and thought there. They're not doing that, which is fine, but I would have preferred if they did, personally. Anyways, I like what I see here. I plan to probably get Towns of the Emperor, the box set, so I can just have the physical copies of the rules and look into it and give my thoughts on how they are in comparison to Book 7's Talon of the Emperor. I have to imagine stat lines are going to be pretty similar, pretty close. The special rules and war gear rules are going to be where we're going to see, I think, some real differences, just due to the nature of 40k balancing versus 30k balancing. So again, we'll see when that happens. I'm not pre-ordering it. I'm gonna be a little risky. I'm not gonna pre-order it. I'm gonna wait for it to come out, see if the local gaming store has it, purchase it there. If they don't, then I'll order it online if it's not out of stock. So hopefully I'll still be able to get a copy. Anyways, that's it. So thanks for sticking through it. When I do eventually get the copy, whenever that is, I'm going to read through it and then I'll do my thoughts in the comparison for those of you who maybe are on the fence about it. Maybe that'll help you make a decision later on. Anyways, I find them pretty cool, and the Custodian Guard are my cup of tea. The Sisters of Silence really aren't, but they're still interesting. Plus, now that they're basically armies in 40k, or army light armies in 40k, should we get a new main rulebook edition, and should it be basically along the lines of how 40k has been over the editions? That means it'll be an updated main rulebook at some point, I would imagine, which would necessitate the codices being updated, which would mean Custodian Guard and Sisters of Silence would get an update at some point then as well, which could, if so facto, bring us more units into an updated codex. Always a possibility. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, and it doesn't help us in the here and now, but it is something to kind of put in the back of your mind, kind of food for thought type of thing as well. So just keep in mind, GW doesn't put stuff in a codex that they don't make personally. Forgel may make the grav vehicles and the like, but GW doesn't. GW stores wouldn't stock it necessarily, and a lot of the independent stores wouldn't and don't really stock Forgel stuff either. So it's the case of GW's codices have what GW makes. So in the future, they may make a grav vehicle in place of Forgel making it, just like they started making the Valkyrie and then Forgel stopped making it. So there's always a possibility like that happening, but it's not going to happen right away. It's going to take time, years even, to see if that happens. But there is that possibility, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, I like what I see. I'm gonna do a future ramble, post getting the rules for them and seeing how they compare and contrast to their rules in Forge World. Not because which one's better or worse, just to see what changes were made to fit them into the 40k way of doing things. I'm also going to do a ramble on my thoughts on these forces being in the 40k capability of being played, because as much as I like them, particularly the Custodian Guard, I do have mixed feelings on that, and I just want to share my thought process and read your thought process in the comments, but that'll be a future ramble. So what's your thoughts on the box set? Thanks for sticking through this. Any questions, comments, or requests, put them in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.